Recording started. All right, if you're just joining us, we have about 58 participants on the line. We can do better than that, about 42 short of 100. We can definitely get there, so please make sure you're letting your teammates know that we have a wonderful speaker for you this morning. And that speaker, before I get into that, there is an opportunity to publish your deal and let everyone know about all the incredible successes you've been having in real estate. So please make sure to send your deal, one paragraph about your deal, one paragraph about yourself, and high resolution pictures to renatuscares@myrenatus.com. Our speaker for today is Mr. Daine Clark. Now, I have incredible respect for Daine. Before getting started with Renatus, he was actually working in the Apple store and as a roofer. Now, he was the guy at the Apple store who was in the back. He was very introverted, very shy, and not exactly the guy who would be at the front talking to everybody. And as a roofer, he had fair skin and red hair, so being out in the sun was not exactly his cup of tea. He started looking for other income opportunities, and after finally finding Renatus, he plugged into the Renatus system, applied the velocity banking to pay down his education debt right away, and then used the leverage that he had as a down payment for a duplex, where he lived on one side and rented out the other. And that is really the real estate dream when you're getting started. So fast forward to today, Daine has raised over $3.5 million from investors to lend on various real estate transactions. He's grown his team. He's a PIT team member, and he's been recognized publicly by Bob Snyder as a key leader in our group. So we are just very fortunate to have Daine as our presenter here today. So without further delay, I'd like to bring Daine Clark on the line. Good morning, Daine. How are you today?
Unmute. Aha. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Let me share my screen here. And while I'm doing that, welcome everybody. I am actually in London today. It is like 3 in the afternoon. Been on a flight all night. And so we're running off of just a couple hours of sleep here in the last 48 hours. But we're going to have fun. I got Mr. Michael Huggins with me as well.
Good morning, Renatus Nation. What is up? Coming to you live from the UK.
Yes. All right. Is it... Abby, do you need to share screen with me or make me the...
I know what it is. He's looking for you in the list. And my name. It's my name. Let me change it. Rename. Daine. He's looking. There we go. Now, boom. Just like that. On it. iPad, share. Dun, 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 dun. No. This one. There we go. There we go.
All right. Cool. Well, again, everybody, good morning. I'm really excited to share with you guys today what I wanted to talk about. So really quick, I want to talk about a couple of things because last week we got cut off just a little bit. We were talking about schedule. A bunch of people had questions and things like that. So today would actually be a perfect example to talk about one of the things that I didn't get to talk about. And that is, I learned this early on I shouldn't say I learned this. I heard the concept early on in my Renatus career as I was just getting started. And like Abby said, I was still roofing at my day job, and my wife really wanted me to join Renatus because she knew that real estate investing one day would really help me spend a lot more time with my family. And so early on, when I was getting started, I would work literally 6 days a week and would just hoof it. Never took any time for family other than Sunday. And early on, I heard the concept that basically work hard, play hard. You got to have mandatory fun time. And I took that really hard, actually. It was really hard for me to accept that you've got to have mandatory fun time. And it took me, let's see, mandatory, something like that. Mandatory fun time. I think it was a couple years in. I mean, we even started making more money, and I finally was like, okay, let's actually put this to the test, because my wife was not crazy happy with me working so much. And so I started last week we talked about the template week, where you design your life the way that you want it to go, what you want to do every single week, and just put in all your pay time and the things that you want to accomplish and when you want to do it. Schedule your day out by the 15 minutes at a time. And so I started scheduling out my week. For one day out of the week, we would just have mandatory fun time. I would not answer my phone. I would not just spend time with the family only. And it was weird. I literally committed to doing that 1 year ago this month. And ever since, I've been taking on average either a week out of the month where we go on like vacation, or a day out of the week where we go do things. And oddly, I was proven wrong. And I'm actually very excited to say that I was proven wrong, that because I actually had mandatory fun time in my life, I had the biggest year of my life last year. And I actually worked the least amount that I have ever worked in my life last year, or a year from a year ago today to today.
Results not typical.
Results not typical. Exactly. Keep all the compliance in there. And so just as that example, and this is how I do it, because obviously I worked hard in that time, but when you have that template week, here's what I would basically do. And so if I just kind of draw out my schedule, and currently this is my current template week, is I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all in a row. And like that, who was it? I think it was Bob Snyder that said it last week in the video that Avi showed, where there's no such thing as the work-life balance. Like Monday through Thursday, I'm working sun up to sundown, and Friday is a family day, Saturday is a family day, and then Sunday is a family day. So I'll take those off. And so Monday through Thursday, for example, I wake up before my kids get up. I come home typically after my kids have gone to bed, just depending on how all my appointments go, things like that. But also, so inside of the mandatory fun time, we do that every week, but we also schedule out 2 vacations at a time. So we always have 2 things in the calendar to be looking forward to every single, at any given time, I should say. Oh, thank you. And so oddly enough, because I have those vacations in the calendar at all times, it's always something to be looking forward to, or always something to be building to. It's like, oh man, I got to get all this work done before this happens, or I got to get all, it's almost like you schedule, you create those deadlines for yourself. And so that's been a huge help for me and my business to schedule those things out and say, okay, I got to hit a bunch of things. So for example, we just got on the flight to come here to London yesterday, and I knew that I had a whole bunch of stuff to get done. So we actually bought a house on Friday, and we did that just before London, because we knew we were going to be going. And so we were pushing it, putting all the money together. I also closed, 2 combos on Saturday and put their funding in, because I knew, and I basically told them, and I even did one on Monday where I basically told them, I said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm skipping the country. And so we got to get this in, because if you want to be watching your classes while I'm gone, then we're going to have to get this in timely. So even create those deadlines. And it's crazy. When you schedule your life out on purpose like that, I've noticed that other people, like, Daine's got his stuff together. And so surprisingly, they actually flock towards somebody that is assertive with their calendar and assertive with their with their time. And so that's why I feel like I've noticed that increase in my income, even though my time, I've been decreasing my time. And it's funny. My wife is always saying like, hey, do you think we could get you to working down to like 3 days a week? So we'll see if that happens here in the near future. But anyway, you guys get the idea. So I wanted to follow up with that just because the timing was kind of perfect here in London. So another thing that I wanted to really talk about today, though, and to kind of carry from last week, is how I actually ask for the close. Because I think I shared this. If you guys are enrolled in our current EMT that's happening here in Salt Lake City, this may sound familiar, but in this business, how do we actually get paid in this business? And there's a lot of different things that people could say, but at the end of the day, the way that we actually get paid is there has to be a transfer of money. Okay. So, I mean, we could always go to the 4 core beliefs. We could always go to the 4 money-making activities, all of that stuff. But all of that leads to somebody actually whipping out their credit card and putting that into the system, or a wire transfer, writing a check, you name it. And I found that this is actually perfectly in line with your real estate business. The better you get at asking somebody for their credit card number, or sending in a wire, or writing a check, the better you get at doing your real estate deals. Because at the end of the day, somebody is going to need to sign something. So sign something and then transfer money. So just as an example, the last time, so let's just use the example that I closed the combo on Saturday. So essentially, and you guys have all heard this before, but essentially I show them, hey, this is our 3-phase plan. Here's all the learning paths that you can do in Renatus. Get through your essentials, get through your AIT classes, and then let's go do it. Okay, so all those basics to help us get into a deal as fast as you would like to go, get through this stuff. And then from there, we talk about all the other things, like where, and I've actually just added this into my one-on-one when I sit down and explain this to a prospect. I like to say, hey, there's actually two different things that we're going to be doing here. One of these is education. The other one is networking. And I do this because a lot of people think that just because they buy Renatus and they get education, that money starts showing up, and like, oh, like when I have a real estate deal, I just show up and everybody's going to give me money for my real estate deal, or oh, I just show up and I'm going to find deals, or oh, I just show up and I'm going to have contractors and a team of people to just at my beck and call. But reality is that you actually have to start building relationships with people. And so the second aspect that I've started teaching my students is, hey, there's a networking aspect to this too. In the beginning, I call it level 1. Level 1 networking is just talking to peers, talking to people that you know, because just like anybody, I mean, everybody has their hobbies and favorite things that they could do that if somebody brought up the topic, you could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. So essentially, you want to be communicating with people that you could talk to about real estate for hours and hours and hours. For example, Renatus students. I mean, we could all get together, and this is why we get together in our community events every single week, is because there's so many friends and so many people that are excited about real estate. And so peers, the benefits that come from other real estate peers are, you're going to get ideas from those people. You're going to hear their stories that also give you ideas, or give you courage, or give you motivation. I mean, you name it. With networking with other peers all the time, on a weekly basis, you're going to find potentially deals. I've got a number of stories where just because I like to talk to other people that are interested in real estate, that there's deals happening. There's deals being passed back and forth all the time, as well as money. Money is a huge commodity when you want to do real estate. And so some people, like I mentioned, some people think that, oh, I buy Renatus and money's just going to show up. But you actually have to learn how to network with people that want to put their money in real estate. And I found, oh, Apple Pencil is low on battery. So I found that there's a lot of people that want to put their money in real estate. Some people they already know they want to put their money in real estate, and that would be people that you find down at like the community events. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know they want to put their money in real estate yet. And so because you're a Renatus student and you've got all the education, you can learn how to communicate with those types of people. And that's where I've really built my business. And the funniest thing about this is when I talk to people, or if I say peers, there's two types of peers. There's Renatus students that are interested in real estate, obviously, or else they would not own their education. And there's non-students. So non-Renatus students that are interested in real estate investing. And so just talking to those people as well, it's so funny because of the education I have. People think I am so freaking smart. And I hear from people all the time when I'm just talking real estate jargon and lingo. People are like, man, Daine, like, how do you know this stuff? Like, how do you know how to do this? How do you know how to build this? How do you know how to structure these deals and find these discounts? And people think it's impressive to say like, yeah, like I typically don't even look at a deal if there's not going to be $100,000 discount on it. Especially, and that'd be an example for types of deals here in Utah. If you're flipping houses with that type of a market, I mean, you need $100,000 spread to buy it and sell it for a few months later in order to make any money. And people think they think that's crazy. And so that's why I say this is level one in your Renatus path is because as you're learning, maybe you haven't done any deals. Maybe you're just getting started. So level one is talking to the peers, the other Renatus students, as well as non-Renatus students. And I've got so many stories of talking to non-Renatus students that ended up where people were like, Daine, I need to know what you're doing. I need to know how you know how to do what you're doing. And so they become students, or sometimes they become real estate lenders or capital partners. And so watch your classes on raising money in partnerships with Matt Sorensen to know how to do that. But anyway, you guys get the idea. And then I talk about level two, and I'll get to the close in just a second. But level two networking is as you're going through your AIT classes. So let's just say, for example, we choose the fix and flip track. And so you're going through your fix and flip track where you're learning how to analyze deals. You're learning how to mitigate your risk in deals. You're learning step-by-step processes and good practices and learning how to put your team together and create partnerships and all that kind of stuff. Level two networking is professionals. So this is when it's time to level up a little bit. You've got some education under your belt, and it's time to start talking to actual professionals that are licensed, people that are going to be working on your deals or helping you find deals. So for example, let's talk about like contractors, realtors, title agents. Let's see, what else? Insurance agents, inspectors. Let's see, what am I missing here? Title agent, realtor, attorney, CPA, okay, you name it. All of the different trades or professionals that are going to help you pull your deal off, okay? And so same idea here. Like I've worked with a bunch of professionals, And again, some of them are students that I was just referred to, or I met them at community events. And some of those were non-students. And in fact, let me share a story about my title agent. After I started doing more and more deals, you'll learn that you'll pick certain professionals that are just really good that you want to use over and over and over and over again. And so my title agent, her name is Christina. She actually came to me. She's like, Daine, how are you doing all of these deals? I mean, I've helped you close millions of dollars of transactions, and you always have more money to do more deals. Like, how are you doing this? And she knew the name Renatus. Actually, she had heard of it before. She'd actually been to a couple meetings, and I said, oh, I actually have I was a student at this company, and I learned how to do this stuff, and I've got this whole community of other investors that I network with, and that's how we're putting all this stuff together. And she's like, man, I've heard of that before. I need to come and see that. So she came down to her very first community event and saw what was going on. There was a bunch of people there that were all there for the purpose of real estate. And at the end of the meeting, she comes up to me and she said, Daine, will you come to my office? This was a Thursday night. She said, will you come to my office tomorrow? I really want to talk to you about this. And it was kind of funny. I didn't actually get to go through and like pitch her on anything. She just whipped out her credit card and said, hey, I'm in. How much does this cost? Let's do this. And so essentially, that's why I say networking with peers and professionals in real estate. You know how to mute.
Gerardo, good morning.
Gerardo,
buenos dias.
All right. Anyway, you guys get the idea. So that second aspect of getting educated, as well as the networking, level 1 and level 2. And then when you go do it, then you're just out there making your offers. Okay. So here's my close though. So when I get to this point of sharing with my students this path or this journey that I went through in order to get to start earning income through the Renatus system as well, I share them all of these things, and I just share stories. I love just sharing stories of people that have done this, so myself included. I've gone through my education, I've networked with people, but I love to share stories of other people as well that are, that are doing it, that are actually doing deals. And so I'll share stories of deals. I'll share stories of people finding good professionals, finding money. I mean, you name it. And then at the end, this is my favorite part. As we're talking about deals and stories of deals and things like that, I ask him, I said, no, let me ask you a question. So does this make sense to you? Do you like the idea of what we're doing here? And then, obviously they're going to be like, yeah. I've never, ever, ever had anybody say no to this point, to that question, especially after mapping it out like this and saying, hey, get your education done, start networking with people, learn what to say and who to say it to, and then just say that to a lot of the right people, and deals start coming. And so I've never had anybody say no, like, no, this does not make sense. No, I don't like the idea. So they always say yes. And I say, cool, I actually have a really stupid question for you now. Are you ready? I literally do this, and I love it because it works. So I say again, cool, I actually have a really stupid question for you at this point. You ready? And they're like, yeah, what is it? I say, do you want to do this? And again, I've never had anybody say no. And so I'll stop right there, ask that question. Stupid question, do you want to do this? And then they say yes. And so I never say, do you want to sign up? I never say, do you want to create an account? I never say, do you want to buy this? Do you want to join Renatus? Do you want to, I never say any of that. I share this illustration of going through their education and networking and doing deals, and then say, do you want to do this? And they always say, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I say, great. And same thing that you do when you're doing a real estate deal. When somebody says yes, somebody's got to sign something. Same thing on a real estate deal. If a homeowner says yes to your offer, they have to sign something. If somebody says yes to your offer for somebody to join our team and buy Renatus, then you say, great. Next steps. In fact, here, let me show you what I do. I say, great. Next steps from here. If this makes sense to you and you like the idea, then we're going to create your account for you. This actually only takes a few minutes, and we can do this right now. Okay, so we're going to create your account. Okay? And then I want to share with you a whole bunch of stories for how other people have found their funding for their own Renatus education. And so I say, cool, well, so I'll share with you a bunch of stories of what other people have done. And so if you guys are taking notes with this, like notice that I say stories. There's so many ways that I've seen people put money together and to buy their Renatus education that I would highly recommend getting to know the people in your local community and ask everybody these two questions. Okay, and I actually love hearing these stories. Okay, question number one. So I'm going to tangent here. We're going to go off on a side note. So question number one for your Renatus peers in your local or abroad, doesn't matter, but your Renatus peers is step one. Tell me about the moment that you knew you were going to buy this. Okay, I love hearing that answer. Tell me the very moment. Can you remember when you told yourself, I'm doing this. Like, I am going to join this community. I'm buying this. I'm getting started. I love to hear the answers to those questions. The funniest thing is most, I better not make that claim. Not most people, many. There's quite a few people that when I ask them that question, they say, oh, I actually knew the moment I walked in for the very first time. Before the guy even started talking, like I could just feel the energy in the room. I told myself, I am going to be a part of this. It is crazy the amount of people that say that. And then they're like, yeah, and then the guy went through the presentation. It was great. I don't really remember everything he said, but the whole time I just knew that I was doing this. And so I love getting those stories of, tell me about the very moment that you knew you were doing this, okay? And then the second question is, how did you fund it? How did you fund your education, okay? And so try to get a bunch of stories together. So really common ways are people utilize lines to get their education, like credit cards or HELOCs, or, there's a bunch of different things, but people utilize lines, people utilize cash if they have it, people utilize 401ks, people utilize life insurance, a whole life insurance policy. People utilize, I call this the sexy payback plan, where essentially you do the same thing that I do when I go and ask for money for a real estate deal. You make somebody an offer and say, hey, if you put your money here with me, then I'm going to pay you back and then some. And so sexy payback plan, UGA, which is actually going away. What's today's date? Today would be the 24th, 29th, if I remember right. 29th. So we got 5 days. So UGA for 5 more days. And after that is going to be Renatus billing in the house. And prices going up. So get your education now. Well, you still can. Well, you still can always, but get your price locked in now. Okay, so Renatus billing. So if I were you, I would set a goal to have stories of people in your local community too that funded their education using one or any or all. There are a few people that I know that use all of these things, and have those stories. So that way, when you're telling your prospect, back to here, when you're telling your prospect the funding ideas, and you've got strategy A, B, C, D, whatever it is, there's tons of things they can do. You just start telling them like, hey, here's what one person did. Here's what another person did. Here's what another person did. And then as you're telling these stories, you can be like, oh, and by the way, next time you come down to one of the events, I'm going to introduce you to that person as well. And you can say hi to them and get to know, that this person for realsies. And so you give them their funding ideas. So create the account, funding ideas, and you tell them a bunch of stories. And then step 3 is once we have figured that out and we've got the funding in place, then because we've already created your account, we can unlock your education. And once education unlocks, then it's go time. Start watching these classes. I want to sit, and typically I tell the people this, I say, I want to sit down with you one-on-one at this moment when we're able to unlock education, or as soon as we possibly can afterwards, and say, all right, watch this class, this class, this class, this class. Like here's a whole bunch of things to get you started in this. So let's see, but this strategy is kind of tough with cold market, especially if you have a community. Oh, if you don't have a community in the area. Yes, thank you, Bill, for mentioning that. If you don't have people in the area, then I would talk about, so I think what you're referring to is this aspect, like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this person. In place of that, let's say you don't have somebody that's local, you don't have a local community that you can come to every single week, then I would find testimonials of people that funded their education in these certain ways and just say, hey, let me actually send you a testimonial of that person. Testimonial. Let me send you a testimonial of a person that funded their education this way or that way. And there's tons and tons of real estate testimonials. Or let's say if you do know people that are not necessarily in your area, but you just know people, just say, hey, can you send me a testimonial of how you funded your education? And so you can still give them that aspect, maybe not in the live, touch it, feel it type of a scenario. But you can still create that emotional, like, hey, like this is what people are doing, and create those success stories. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, for that question or comment. So anyway, unlock education. So once we've got the money together, unlock education, we get started. You start watching your classes, and we start moving down the path. And so, and actually, I want to touch on what Bill mentioned. What if you have people in the area, or sorry, what if you are a student, or your prospect would be a student where there's not local communities? I actually just enrolled a student that lives in a smaller town up in Washington State. And we ran into that same challenge that he is like 4 hours to the nearest community. And so essentially what I told him, I said, all right, nothing's going to change for you in this journey of getting educated and networking. It's just going to be a little bit different, where the nice thing about a community is that you already know people that are interested in real estate investing. What you get to do is start creating a community. If you can imagine who makes the most money in any local real estate community, it's the person who stands in the front of the room and holds the marker. And so, yeah, you don't have to be like a presenter or anything like that. But if you just start creating and doing this level 1 networking and finding other peers in the area that want to do real estate, whether they are students or not, doesn't matter. You can do deals with or create value with anybody. Most people that want to become a real estate investor are just going to be much, much better equipped if they own their education, but not, if they own their education. So cool. Would love to learn that and be able to build a community in my area. Yes, Bill. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that. And it's going to start right here. Level one networking. Just start talking to existing peers. Start talking to, where are you, Bill? If you wouldn't mind typing that in. Rochester, New York. Cool. You know where that is?
New York.
Upstate. Niagara Falls.
Upstate. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Gorgeous country.
I think there's people up there.
Michael thinks there's people up there.
Those people need confidence.
And those people need education. Cool. So what I would recommend, and I mean, this goes for anybody, because the conversation that you'll have with a Renata student when you're networking with them is actually not that different from the conversation that you'll have with somebody who is not a Renata student yet. Same conversation. It's usually, the only difference with a Renata student is you don't have to have an opener of, hey, have you ever considered getting involved in real estate investing? Because that's a given. They own Renatas. They are interested in getting involved in real estate investing. But again, after that conversation is the same. Like, oh, what are you interested? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what have you done? How, you know, what are your goals? Where do you want to go? Like, what kind of a return would turn your head? All that kind of stuff. And so you start having those conversations. And so even in your area, wherever you are, you'll be able to start building your real estate team as well as your Renatas team. And so let's see, some Anissa also, let's see, Bill reached out. Oh, cool. Connections right now happening in the very moment. I actually forgot to mention that line item here. Connections come from your real estate peers. So, I mean, this is happening in this very moment because we're all on this call. There's over 100 people on this call right now from all across the nation. And we have all of these commodities, connections to the professionals, as well as money and deals and stories and ideas and all sorts of stuff. So thank you, Anissa, for jumping in and doing that. So, all right. What I want to talk about next is this level one networking type of stuff. Like, how do you actually do this and start a conversation? Because like Abby said, my whole life, even my own mother, actually, level three, let's go do it. Essentially, level three, the conversation is you call these professionals and say, hey, I got one. Come and do whatever it is you do. Get me bids, get me comps, get me CMAs, get me an abstract of title, get me a property report, get me an insurance quote, get me an inspection, get me an LLC, get me a bookkeeping, you know, whatever it is. So level three is we're doing it. And there's two, or I should say there's two scripts on that. One of them is I got one, but the preliminary one to I got one is, hey, I'm going to be making some offers on properties. I need to know what I can and cannot commit to. So you'll say this to any one of your professionals, contractor, realtor, title agent, money even. Hey, I need to know what I can and cannot commit to. And so I know, what are you capable of? Contractor, what are you capable of? If I have an offer that goes in and somebody says yes, how quickly can you get me a line item bid of this property? Or title agent or realtor or insurance? Hey, how quickly can you handle? Let's say you're raising money and you're using your Matt Sorensen classes on raising money and partnerships, as well as the things from Jay Massey. It's hey, I need to know, I'm making offers. I need to know what I can and can't commit to. How much could you come in on a good deal if it met, you know, your criteria, type of a thing. And that's how I get people give me dollar amounts all the time of how much money they've got. Okay, so back to starting this level one in the networking. So I found that every single human being, when it comes to real estate investing, falls into a few different boxes. And I shared this a little while ago, so I'm not going to go super deep into this, but essentially I want to talk about how to open that conversation. Okay. And so won't necessarily talk about the 4 boxes like I mentioned, but let's talk about those beginners. Okay, so first thing that you want to do is ask people questions. You never, and you guys all know this, every single person that you've ever met, if you think back to the first time you met them, which ones were a lot more fun to get to know? Was it the ones that asked you questions, or was it the ones that just had everything to tell you? That the interested introvert is always so much more fun to talk to than the interesting extrovert. And so you are the person who asks questions. Okay, what do you ask? If you've ever heard the acronym FORM, you ask them about their family. You ask them about their occupation. You ask them about their, what is R? What's R?
Recreation.
Recreation.
Mandatory fun time.
Mandatory fun time. Recreation. And M for money. How do you make your money? How much money do you like at any given time? No, just kidding. So occupation. Okay, so you ask them lots and lots and lots of questions, and this was my favorite thing to become, or my favorite thing to master, is when you're asking other people questions, the way that I was able to tie real estate into the conversation is because of all the people that I've met, or all the stories that I've heard of other people's real estate, or even my own experiences, doesn't matter. When somebody starts telling me about something in these categories, family, occupation, and recreation, and so on and so forth, they always like line up a bridge for me to say, hey, let's start talking about real estate. And this is how I do it. So for example, if I start talking to a friend of mine, I say, hey man, I haven't talked to you in like 5 years. How you doing? Oh, I noticed you got married. How's, you guys have any kids, whatever. And then they start talking about, more of their family, and they start talking about time with family. And then I say, oh, well, what do you guys do for fun? Other than work, what are you guys most passionate about? Whatever. And then ask occupation. And then as they're talking, I'm like, for example, I just did this with a friend of mine, where he started saying, he's like, oh yeah, like I got this crazy sales job, and I'm working like crazy. We just had our first little baby. She's about to turn 1 year old. And I'm just working. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is always how I change the conversation to real estate. I say, oh my gosh, have you actually ever considered getting involved in real estate investing? And so I basically make it sound like whatever it is that they're telling me made me think about, oh my gosh, have you ever considered, because of what they're telling me, they should be looking into real estate investing. And so anyway, you guys get the idea. You ask them a bunch of questions, and then they say something that makes you get excited about bringing up real estate investing. Okay. And so I started talking about real estate investing. Now, the next thing I like to talk about, it depends on your experience level. And so if you've done a bunch of deals and you've got all kinds of credibility and experience, then yeah, talk about that. Like, yeah, I actually, this or that or the other, I actually been learning how to do this. And even though I've still got a multi-million-dollar real estate business, I still actually love to say, oh yeah, I've been learning how to do, multiple deals at a time. Like I've learned how to pick up properties at $100,000 discounts. I've learned how to, but let's say I was, back when I was brand new, and I had to do this because, again, the first time you do anything ever is always the hardest. The first time you raise money, the first time you make an offer, the first time you get a property under contract, the first combo you sell, doesn't matter. First time is always the hardest. And so what I would do when I was new and I hadn't done any deals, I would just talk about what I'm learning. Okay, so again, to kind of reemphasize this, I'm asking them questions. The more they tell me, the more I'm excited and genuine about learning. And then they say certain things that make me think about real estate. I'm like, oh my gosh, have you ever considered getting involved in real estate investing? And when I was new, it was like, hey, I've been learning how to find real estate at $100,000 discounts. In fact, I just saw a guy do this like last month. He picked up this house right here in my neighborhood at $100,000 discount, and he's already got it almost all ready to sell. He's gonna turn around and sell this thing in less than 4 months. And so I just start diving into real estate, obviously based on what it is that they're telling me and the reason that real estate popped into my head, based on what they said. But again, I'm just telling them like, hey, I just learned how to do this. Oh, I'm learning how to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did this last week. Or, oh, we just picked up this house. My goal, and I love to talk about goals too, and say like, yeah, I've been thinking about getting into real estate myself. In fact, my goal is to flip my first house this year. I've already been learning how to find discounts and raise money for deals so I don't have to use my credit score. Anyway, you guys get the idea. You just start telling them where you are in this process. Wherever you are, make it exciting, because they're going to feel it. They're going to feel your excitement, whether you're new or seasoned and have done multiple deals. Doesn't matter. I mean, I had to raise my first $100,000 for my first deal, and I had never raised money before that. I mean, just remember that as you're doing this. Most people think you have to have credibility. I did not have credibility on my first one. You never will. So just get it done. Just do it. Okay. And so anyway, talk about that, all what you're learning and all the kind of, things, learning, doing, both of them. I still tell people what I'm learning because I've been doing this for years. I'm still learning. Okay. And so that's how I would open the conversation, is ask a bunch of questions. Oh my gosh, based on what you said, we need to talk about real estate. And then people's responses would typically fall into 4 different boxes. And so just to briefly go over this, because we're about at the top of the hour here. My first box are people that I would call passive real estate investors. Typically, these are the people that don't have time, but they do have money. And so if I were to try and say, hey, come down to community events and come learn how to do this and that, they would probably be like, no. But I say, hey, if I bring you deals for real estate, let's look at these together. They're always like, yeah, okay, yeah, call me next time you got a deal. And so I call those my passive real estate investor box. And then the active real estate investor box are the ones that, as you're talking about, again, the same script leads to these 4 different boxes. As you're talking about real estate, telling what you're learning, you start getting responses like, oh my gosh, like I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to learn how to analyze deals. I've always wanted to learn how to flip a house or buy, property at huge discounts. In essence, these people are telling you that they want to spend time. They want to make offers. They want to they want to buy properties and buy rentals and flip houses and be an entrepreneur in real estate. Yeah. And I've noticed that it does not matter if active investors have money or if they don't have money. I was this person where I did not have money, but I knew that I had time that I wanted to put towards investing and making offers and learning how to analyze deals. Third type, I call this, these people are in survival mode. Survival mode. These people are down on their luck and have some kind of problem. So it doesn't matter if they have time, doesn't matter if they have money. The only thing I can help these people with is if they have property, I would love to make an offer and get that property off their hands. I got multiple stories where we were able to help people. I mean, dozens of deals where somebody had some kind of problem. They were in survival mode. Maybe they inherited a mortgage payment. Maybe they had, one of them, I had somebody that had, the bank was coming down on them and they're like, I got to get out of here because the bank's foreclosing, you name it. So anyway, people in survival mode that have property, you can help them and get deals out of it. And then the last box, I call it my not interested box, because it's going to happen. But these people actually have a very special place in my heart, because even though this is probably the biggest box of all the people that I've talked to about real estate, I've noticed that this really becomes a not interested yet box because people, when you plant in their minds that you are a real estate professional, a real estate investor, people are going to call you if they ever meet somebody in this mode, in a survival mode. People are going to call you if they ever change their mind about becoming an active investor. Believe me, people who should be an active investor in the active investor box and say they're not interested, life is going to slap them in the face a few times and they'll be back. They always come back. Okay. And then same thing here, people with the passive investor box. I got a bunch of people that said they were not interested. And again, I don't care if they have time. I don't care if they have money. Get out of my face because they're not interested in what I'm interested right now. But people call me back and they always say, Daine, are you still doing that real estate thing? And I always say, yeah, what are you doing? And I just revert back to the script. I try not to answer their questions yet. I just revert back to their script to ask about family, occupation, recreation. And this is where you usually learn, like, oh yeah, life has kind of slapped you in the face a little bit. And then you realize why they're calling. And so I've had some people that told me they were not interested 2 years ago, call me back and say, hey, Daine, you still doing that real estate thing? And I ask them all these questions and they say, and then I tell them like, oh yeah, I've actually done almost 40 deals now. I started my own private bank. And they're just like, are you freaking kidding me? And so people will jump from the not interested yet box to maybe a Renata student, or maybe a money lender that I'll use for my next deal. Or maybe somebody says, hey, I actually just met somebody that has a problem and they need some help with their real estate deal. And so I'm like, cool, I can help with that. So that's where all of your networking is going to lead to, is you just start conversations about real estate and see where it goes. And obviously, obviously there's no agenda, but you know where you can end up on all occasions. You have conversations with passive investors, potential active investors, people in survival mode that have property. The end of your conversation should end in a yes or a no. Yes or no. If it's a yes, get out your pen because somebody's going to sign something. And then you start planning to transfer money. So cool. And we got to wrap up the call here pretty soon. I got a couple announcements to make. Let's see. This coming March 1, 2, and 3, right? May, I mean. The other M word, the other M month. May 1, 2, and 3 is actually live education week. Jay Massey, he's actually one of my favorite instructors, is going to be teaching a multi-day course on Airbnb or short-term rental properties. Jay Massey is the one who teaches in the bonus track, and he's the one that actually really helped me get my start in raising money and actually putting deals together, pitching deals especially. And so Jay will be teaching those 3 days in a row. Everybody who is a combo student is welcome to, so this is May 1, 2, and 3. So he'll be going over how he actually just got into Airbnb properties or short-term rentals, actually not too long ago, within 1 to 2 years. And he has done dozens upon dozens of deals. And the last time I actually got to talk to Jay personally, he when he was sitting down and sharing with me what this class is going to include, he said, Daine, the returns are ridiculous with what you can make on these Airbnb properties. So couple of opportunities here for you. Obviously, if you're on this call, you're an active investor, and you can come and get some ideas and strategies on how you can create your business in Airbnbs. Secondly, if you know anybody that also is somebody who should be in the active investor box or even the passive investor box, You can be like, hey, I got some ideas. You should come and see what I'm thinking. And here's a guy that I've been learning from that is doing this right now and just slaying it. And so this could lead to some very awesome follow-up conversations after they've been able to see Jay Massey alongside yourself. So be there. It is going to be amazing. They'll be live streaming it in your back end. If you are local, then get yourself down to Centerville, Utah, and listen to him live. Bring your guest, and it'll be awesome, absolutely awesome. This weekend, we've also got Gavin McCaleb coming to Utah. I think Abby probably talked about this, but this Saturday, Gavin McCaleb will be in the house. Again, one of my favorite instructors. He's one of those people that just put it all together and said, hey, here's how you go start to finish doing deals. So he's going to be teaching his foreclosures class. That is this Saturday. Get there. Come, and just don't come alone. So this Saturday. So anything else, Michael, that you want me to cover?
Attitude of gratitude.
Attitude of gratitude. So thank you guys all for your comments and questions. Bill would love to chat. Add me on Facebook, and we'll chat on Facebook. So cool. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Sweet.